My name is Nathan Cole, and I was the man who told every star-born civilization to listen, remember, and never test humanity again. Before the story begins, take one quiet second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves stories where humanity does not kneel when the universe turns cruel. I was not a soldier. I was not a hero. I was not one of those men who dreamed about war rooms, command chairs, and fleets moving under my orders. I was a diplomat. For 11 years, I stood in bright halls, shook alien hands, bowed in alien ways, smiled when I did not want to smile, and believed that patience could change the shape of history. That belief died in the Grand Assembly Hall of Terralise. Terralise was not a planet in the normal sense. It was a station world, built into a huge crystal body that drifted between three dead stars in the Carious expanse. From the outside, it looked like a jewel caught in black water. From the inside, it felt like standing inside the heart of a frozen mountain. Light moved through the walls. Voices carried softly. Every room seemed designed to make people feel wise, calm, and important. The Grand Assembly Hall was the center of it all. 42 species sat there in rising rings of polished crystal and dark metal. They called themselves the Galactic Concord. They spoke of unity, peace, trade, law, and mutual protection. They signed beautiful agreements in beautiful languages. They had banners, rituals, seats of honor, and long speeches about the sacred duty of civilized life. I had given many speeches there. That day, I was giving one more. It was nothing dramatic. A trade proposal. Mineral extraction rights in the polar belt. Tariff adjustments. Shared mining routes. The kind of thing nobody remembers unless it starts a crisis. I knew the rhythm of that speech. I knew when to pause. I knew when to look at the Varadi ambassador, when to nod toward the Krell delegation, when to soften my tone for the Pelori, who heard emotion in the smallest movement of breath. I was halfway through a sentence when the comm unit under my wrist skin began to pulse. Not once. Not twice. It struck like a warning bell inside my bones. Priority 0. In 11 years of diplomatic service, I had never received a Priority 0 message. Not during border disputes. Not during plague evacuations. Not during first contact with the Istran swarm. Priority 0 meant the human government believed that history had split open. I stopped speaking. 2,000 delegates looked at me. The translation fields above us continued humming for a moment, then settled into silence. The Varadi ambassador tilted her long insect-like head. Her black compound eyes reflected the hall in 1,000 tiny broken images. The Krell representative leaned forward, his granite-colored body pressing against a reinforced chair made for beings who could crush steel without meaning to. The Pelori delegate folded her wings tight against her side, feathers changing from silver to dark blue. I raised one finger. A human gesture. Wait. Then I looked at the message. 7 words. Sol system under full-scale invasion. Drathani. For a few seconds, my body forgot how to breathe. The Drathani supremacy was not part of the Concord. It was an empire on the outer rim, ruled by military bloodlines and old conquest laws. They believed peace was weakness. They believed borders existed only until someone stronger erased them. For centuries, they had raided, threatened, tested, and retreated. They were dangerous, but they were predictable. This was not predictable. A data packet opened on my display. 312 Drathani capital ships had entered human space from 6 vectors at once. Earth was under orbital fire. Mars was burning. The Jovian colonies were losing stations every minute. Civilian casualties were already beyond counting. This was not an attack meant to win territory. This was an attack meant to erase a people. I looked up at the assembly. My heartbeat was so loud I could feel it in my teeth. Delegates, I said, and somehow my voice did not break. I have just received confirmation that the Drathani supremacy has launched a full military assault on the Sol system. Earth, Mars, and the Jovian colonies are under direct attack. Civilian casualties are massive and rising. On behalf of humanity, I formally invoke Article 7 of the Concord Charter. The Mutual Defense Clause. The hall became silent. Not the silence of thought. The silence of people already searching for excuses. I had heard that silence before in small rooms. It came before betrayal. It came before cowardice dressed as wisdom. It came before someone explained why they could not do the right thing. The Varadi ambassador spoke first. Her mandibles clicked rapidly. The translator softened her words into calm English. Ambassador Cole, the Concord recognizes the seriousness of this situation. However, a military response of this scale requires formal review. There are procedures that must be followed. Procedures, I repeated. The word tasted like ash. Ambassador, human cities are being bombed while we stand here. Hospitals are being destroyed. Children are dying. I am not asking for a discussion. I am asking you to honor the treaty every species in this hall signed. The Krell representative answered next. His voice was deep and slow, like stone sliding over stone. The Krell Dominion offers sympathy. But we believe diplomatic channels should be explored before war is declared. The Drathani may be open to negotiation. 312 warships are in our home system, I said. What part of that sounds like negotiation? No one answered. I looked around the chamber. The Pelori delegate stared at her notes. The Janeth ambassador turned his seat slightly away from me, as if a few degrees of movement could free him from responsibility. The Mahari whispered to an aide. The Dalvari watched the ceiling. The Tessican, who had once called humanity their closest friend, would not meet my eyes. That was when I understood. They were not confused. They were not delayed. They were afraid. Helping humanity meant fighting the Drathani. Fighting the Drathani meant risk, money, blood, and political cost. Humanity had spent 3 centuries being kind. We had built schools on alien colonies. We had sent doctors into plague zones. We had helped rebuild moons after mining disasters. We had shared music, food, literature, and science. We had made friends. But we had never made them afraid. So when the fire came for us, our friends looked at us the way people look at someone drowning far from shore. Sad. Concerned. Still standing on dry land. I closed my data pad. Thank you for your honesty, I said. I want every delegate here to remember this moment. Humanity will remember it too. Then I turned and walked out. No one stopped me. Outside the hall, the crystal corridors of Terralise glowed with gentle light. Through the clear walls, I could see stars scattered across the dark. Somewhere in that darkness, my home was burning. Lucy Grant was waiting by the corridor arch. She was my senior aide, 28 years old, brilliant, sharp, and usually unshakable. Now her face was pale. Her hands gripped a data slate. Tears moved silently down her cheeks as images played across the screen. Burning cities. Broken stations. Emergency signals stacked over one another until the system could no longer display them. They said no, she whispered. They said later, I answered. That is the polite version of no. She wiped her face with anger more than sadness. What do we do now? I looked at the stars through the wall. For 12 years, I had carried a code in my memory. I had been given that code in a windowless room on Earth, on the day I accepted my post as senior ambassador. The man who gave it to me never told me his name. He only said it was for the worst day humanity could imagine. I had hoped every day that he was being dramatic. He was not. I lifted my wrist and entered the code. A hidden channel opened. It passed through relay points no Concord species knew existed. It moved through black routes, folded signals, and silent systems. When the connection stabilized, a man answered. His voice was calm. Too calm. This is Ambassador Nathan Cole, I said. Authentication code, Whisper 77 Black. The Concord has refused immediate military support. I formally request activation of the Eschaton protocols. There was a pause. Authentication confirmed, the voice said. Eschaton sequence initiated. All assets are moving to ready status. Then, quieter, he added, God help us all. The channel closed. Lucy stared at me. She knew the name. Every senior diplomat had heard of the Eschaton protocols in the same way people hear of ancient disasters. You know they existed. You know they were terrible. You comfort yourself by believing they belong to history or theory. Nathan, she said slowly. What did you just do? I started walking toward the docking bay. Something we should have done before we ever trusted the galaxy. Behind us, the Grand Assembly Hall returned to its calm discussions. Trade routes. Resource allocation. Statements of concern. Formal reviews. The machinery of galactic government kept turning, smooth and cold. None of them understood that the age of polite humanity had just ended. The ship that took us from Terralise was named the Whitfield. Officially, it was a standard diplomatic courier, 50 meters long, lightly crewed, lightly armed, and forgettable. The Concord registry listed it as slow, ordinary, and harmless. The registry lied. The Whitfield carried a drive system that would have made Concord engineers question every law they believed in. It could cross the distance from Terralise to Seoul in less than 3 days. Even that was too slow. I sat strapped into a narrow passenger chair while folded space screamed silently around us. Lucy sat across from me, watching casualty feeds. Every few minutes, another number rose. Every few minutes, another district disappeared from the map. Every few minutes, she looked at me with the same question in her eyes. What were the Eschaton protocols? She had followed me without hesitation. She deserved the truth. So I gave it to her. 3 centuries ago, I said, when humanity first reached the stars, we wanted to believe the universe was kinder than Earth had been. Lucy looked up. We met the Tessican, and they welcomed us with open hands. We met the Pelori, and they sang to us. We met the Krell, who looked terrifying but turned out to be philosophers. We met species that had crossed the darkness and built law instead of endless war. For the first time, humans looked up and thought maybe the universe was not empty, not cruel, not waiting to swallow us. I leaned back and closed my eyes. We joined the Concord. We worked hard to be useful. We built schools where education systems were failing. We sent medical teams where diseases moved faster than local research. We helped terraform damaged colonies. We translated poems. We opened restaurants on alien stations. We learned songs we could barely pronounce. We tried, Lucy. God knows we tried. I know, she said. But humans remember things. We remember what happens when good people assume promises are enough. We remember every broken treaty in our own history. Every city burned because someone thought mercy made them weak. Every child buried because leaders waited too long. We remember that kindness is beautiful, but kindness without protection is a door without a lock. Lucy's face tightened. What did we build? First, I said, we built power. Her eyes narrowed. There was a physicist named Eleanor Webb. Publicly, she was a quiet researcher working near Jupiter. Privately, she was the woman who changed everything. She discovered how to extract energy from the quantum vacuum. Zero-point energy. Power from empty space itself. That is supposed to be impossible. It was impossible for everyone else. I watched the stars bend through the viewport. When Webb proved it could be done, humanity faced a choice. Share it with the Concord and become the most important species in known space, or hide it and build a guarantee that no one could erase us. Our leaders chose silence. Why? Because if the galaxy knew, they would either take it from us or destroy us before we became too strong. History offered no safe third option. The Whitfield hummed beneath us, driven by the secret we had hidden for generations. While our public ships kept using ordinary fusion drives, our secret yards built something else. The Black Armada. 2,000 warships, powered by zero-point reactors. Invisible to known sensors. Faster than any Concord vessel. armed with weapons based on physics nobody else had discovered. Lucy said nothing. Crews lived in the dark for decades. Their families were told they worked on deep space research. Their friends believed they were studying gravitational fields. In truth, they were training for the day humanity's kindness failed to protect it. She swallowed. That is the eschaton protocol. No, I said. That is only the fist. Keep your eyes on the screen, because this is where the story begins to turn. If you are feeling the weight of it, leave a like, subscribe for more HFY stories, and share this video with someone who understands that silence is not weakness. The second part was called The Veil, I said. Lucy looked almost afraid to ask. For 2 centuries, human survey ships traveled through every known system. The Concorde thought we were mapping stars, studying planets, collecting harmless data. And we were. The science was real. But every survey mission left something behind. What? Satellites. How many? Enough. Nathan. I looked at her. One around every important star in the galaxy. Many around stars that were not important yet. Her face drained of color. They are small. No larger than a human fist. Powered by micro zero-point cores. Covered in the same absorption material as the Armada. Undetectable by known sensors. Quiet. Patient. Waiting. What do they do? I did not want to answer. So I forced myself to. They can interfere with a star's fusion cycle. Lucy stared at me. Not explode it, I said. No supernova. No dramatic burst. They slow the reaction. They make a star fade. Within years, any world depending on that star begins to freeze. Within a decade, life becomes impossible. She looked like I had struck her. Every star. Every star that matters. And the switch? The veil is connected to a dead man's switch. If human civilization is destroyed, if there is no command structure left, no continuity, no recovery, the network activates automatically. She whispered, the galaxy goes dark. Yes. She turned toward the viewport and said nothing for a long time. I let her silence stand. Some truths are not meant to be softened. After almost 10 minutes, she asked, why would we build that? Because a deterrent only works if the cost of attacking you is too terrible to accept. That is not defense, Nathan. That is holding every living thing hostage. Yes. And we have done this for a century? Yes. Her voice was barely audible. And nobody knows. Nobody outside a very small circle. She looked at me then, and I saw something in her eyes that hurt more than anger. She was looking at me like I had become a stranger in the space of one conversation. I understood. The Nathan Cole she knew believed in treaties, mercy, and shared futures. That man was still real. But now she could see what stood behind him. A species with flowers in one hand and a knife hidden in the other. The schools were real, I said. The hospitals were real. The medical missions were real. The friendships were real. Humanity did not fake its kindness. Lucy's voice was cold. But we also prepared to kill every star. Because we are human, I said. And humans have never known how to love something without fearing the day it will be taken. The comm panel sounded. Another update from Seoul. Lucy opened it. Her jaw tightened. Drathani ground forces had landed on 3 continents. Civilian casualties had passed 9 million. Orbital defense stations were gone. Evacuation corridors were failing. Then my personal channel flashed. A message from my brother. Sent 11 hours earlier. I opened it. Nathan, Grace is gone. Osaka bombardment. She was at the medical center with Aunt Helen. I cannot reach Helen either. Please come home. Please. Grace Holloway. My niece. 12 years old. She loved birds, strawberry ice cream, and model ships. When she was 6, she drew a picture of herself holding hands with a tall alien child. Under it, in careful uneven letters, she wrote, "Friends across the stars." I kept that drawing in my embassy desk. The embassy was probably dust now. I closed the message. Lucy saw my face and did not ask. My voice, when it came, sounded older. "Open a secure channel to Fleet Admiral Simon Drake." She did it without hesitation. The screen filled with the face of a man in his early 60s. Iron gray hair. Steady eyes. The kind of stillness that comes from 30 years of waiting in the dark. He was aboard the flagship of the Black Armada, hidden below the plane of the Sol system, in the deep shadow where no enemy sensor would think to look. "Ambassador," he said. "Admiral. Authorization is confirmed. The Concorde will not help us. Bring the Armada in." He studied me for a moment. He was not looking for permission. He already had it. He was looking for doubt. He found grief. I know he did. But he found no doubt. 2,000 ships are at full readiness, he said. We will be in engagement range in 4 hours. For more hours. More cities. More names. Make it faster if you can. We will do everything possible. The channel closed. The Whitfield drove toward Earth. By then, the Drethani were celebrating. We learned that later from captured communications. Their commanders believed humanity was already broken. Their supreme commander, Drethus V, had begun dividing Earth into occupation zones. He sent a broadcast across open channels, calling humanity a failed species, too soft for the stars, too sentimental to survive among greater powers. The Concorde watched from a distance. Military analysts on 42 worlds studied their sensor feeds. They saw the same thing everyone expected to see. A violent empire destroying a peaceful civilization while its allies waited behind procedure and fear. Some delegations had already started discussing what would happen to human trade routes after our government collapsed. None of them noticed the darkness moving beneath the solar plane. The Black Armada rose like night given shape. 2,000 ships, blacker than the space around them, ascended in perfect formation. They had been there for decades. Silent. Cold. Invisible. A secret ocean of metal and power beneath the feet of every invader who thought humanity had nothing left. The Drethani detected them 11 seconds before the first strike. 11 seconds is not enough time to understand a miracle. It is not enough time to fear properly. A Drethani sensor officer transmitted one word before his ship died. Below. The Whitfield joined the Armada before engagement. Admiral Drake ordered me aboard the flagship, the Nightfall. I think he wanted a witness. Not a soldier who would write a military report. Not an engineer who would describe the weapons. A diplomat. A man whose entire life had been spent trying to avoid what was about to happen. The command deck of the Nightfall was quiet. That surprised me. I had expected shouting, alarms, chaos, the noise of war. Instead, the room was calm. Officers sat at clean stations in soft light. They spoke in low voices. Data moved across screens. At the center of the room, a holographic display showed the Drethani fleet around Earth and Mars, red symbols hanging like wounds in space. Admiral Drake stood with his hands behind his back. He did not look angry. That frightened me more than anger would have. He looked like a surgeon about to remove a tumor. Begin, he said. Human weapons fired. Or rather, they did what our enemies would later call firing, because no better word existed. There were no beams. No missiles. No shells. No bright lines of death crossing the void. Space itself folded. Around the first Drethani capital ship, reality bent inward. On the tactical display, it looked like heat shimmer. Then the shimmer tightened. A vessel 3 kilometers long, armored against every known weapon, collapsed into itself. Metal, decks, reactors, guns, command towers, all crushed into a black sphere no larger than a city block. No explosion. No flame. One moment, a warship. The next, a dead object tumbling in silence. 47 Drathani capital ships were neutralized in the first 90 seconds. I watched the display. I knew those ships had fired on Earth. I knew one of them might have killed Grace. I knew they had burned hospitals and schools. Still, my mind could not accept how easily they were removed. Not destroyed. Removed. Like a hand closing around paper. The Drathani fleet broke into confusion. Their channels filled with overlapping commands. Some captains fired plasma cannons that could shatter continents. Others launched kinetic rounds at near light speed. Missile clouds opened like swarms. None of it mattered. The Black Armada moved too fast. It shifted position in ways Drathani systems could not track. Our ships opened compression fields, closed them, vanished, reappeared, and folded enemy vessels before their targeting computers could understand where the attack had come from. The Drathani were not fighting a stronger enemy. They were fighting a future they had never imagined. After 6 hours, 140 of their ships were gone. After 12 hours, more than 200. Some tried to run. Some tried to gather into defensive formations. Some shut off engines and weapons, hoping stillness would save them. Drake gave one order that never changed. All escape pods will be recovered. All surrendering vessels will be secured. All prisoners will receive medical care. No exceptions. A young officer questioned it once. His name was Peter Hale. His sister had died in the bombardment of Lagos. When he heard the order, his voice cracked. "Sir, these people killed our families." Drake turned to him. For 3 seconds, the whole command deck seemed to hold its breath. "Lieutenant," Drake said, "we are not them. That is the point. The moment we treat helpless prisoners the way they treated our civilians, they win something from us. I will not allow that. Carry out the order." Hale carried out the order. Everyone did. That was humanity's terrible contradiction made visible. We could fold a warship into a metal stone, then pull its wounded crew from escape pods and give them water. We could threaten doom and offer mercy in the same breath. I think that is what frightened the galaxy most. A monster is easy to understand. A merciful giant is not. The battle lasted 60 hours. 312 Drathani capital ships entered Seoul. Not one remained free. The last to fall was not destroyed. It was the Iron Verdict, Supreme Commander Drathus V's flagship, 5 kilometers of armor, command decks, and imperial pride. It was surrounded by 40 human ships, all silent, all waiting. Drake opened a channel. "Supreme Commander V," he said, calm as winter. "Your fleet is gone. Your invasion has failed. Power down your weapons and surrender. Your crew will live. Continue fighting, and they will not. You have 60 seconds. For a moment, there was only static. Then V spoke. "What are you?" His voice was not proud anymore. "We studied you. You had no strength. No real fleet. No weapons worth naming. What are you?" Drake glanced at me. Maybe he wanted the diplomat to answer. Maybe he wanted the old humanity to have one last word. I said nothing. Drake turned back to the channel. "We are human," he said. "We are what happens when the quiet ones are pushed past patience." The Iron Verdict powered down. The invasion was over. The final human casualty report came 3 hours later. 14,200,000 dead. Civilian and military. Grace among them. Armada losses were 0. 3 ships had minor structural damage. 0 dead. That number should have felt like triumph. It felt like horror. We had hidden invincible ships beneath our own system for 30 years. We had allowed the galaxy to believe we were gentle because we were gentle. But under that gentleness, we had built something capable of ending any war before the enemy understood it had begun. The hiding was finished now. The galaxy would know. And knowing the fleet was only the beginning. Admiral Drake approached me after the last prisoner vessel was secured. "Ambassador," he said. "The military operation is complete. What happens next is yours." My legs were stiff. My back ached. My heart felt hollow. "Prepare the messenger probes," I said. "All of them. Every world. Every station. Every ship." Drake nodded. Across the galaxy, billions of tiny machines woke for the first and only time. They were hidden inside trade ports, asteroid belts, ship hulls, cargo relays, weather satellites, old repair docks, and forgotten navigation buoys. Some were smaller than coins. Some had waited for 200 years. Each carried a holographic projector, a burst transmitter, and one purpose: to let humanity speak to everyone at once. I walked to a small communication room inside the Nightfall. It was bare. No flag. No podium. No military seal. No polished background. I changed into civilian clothes. A plain gray shirt. Dark trousers. I wanted the galaxy to see a human being. Not a commander. Not a president. Not a symbol. A man. Lucy met me at the door. Her eyes were red, but dry. "The network is synchronized," she said. "When you speak, every inhabited world will receive it. Every major station. Every ship with an active communications array. Rough estimate, 300 billion viewers. 300 billion souls. Waiting without knowing they were waiting." "Are you ready?" she asked. "No," I said. "But that does not matter." I entered the room. The door closed behind me. A small red light turned on. I thought of Grace. I thought of Earth burning. I thought of the assembly hall, and the 42 species that had looked away. Then I spoke. "My name is Nathan Cole. I am the senior ambassador of humanity to the Galactic Concord. What I am about to say is true. I will say it once. I will not soften it. I will not apologize for it. If this moment has you listening closely, show the channel some support with a like, subscribe for more deep space HFY stories, and share this video so the next listener can hear humanity's warning too. 12 days ago, the Drethani supremacy entered the Sol system with 312 capital warships. They attacked without warning. They bombarded Earth, Mars, and the Jovian colonies. They destroyed hospitals, schools, homes, transport stations, shelters, farms, and cities that had stood for centuries. I kept my hands still. 14,200,000 human beings are dead. The word seemed too small for the number. In accordance with the Concord Charter, humanity invoked the Mutual Defense Clause. We asked our allies for help. We asked the species who called us friends. We asked the governments that had signed treaties with us, traded with us, accepted our doctors, our teachers, our engineers, our trust. I paused. Not one ship came. Somewhere, on 42 home worlds, leaders who had sat in safety would be hearing that line. You watched us burn. You calculated the cost of helping us. You decided humanity was not worth that cost. I let that breathe. You were wrong. The recording system linked battle data into the broadcast. Every viewer would see what the Drethani had seen too late. The black ships rising. The compression fields. The warships folding inward. The invaders surrendering. The Drethani invasion fleet has been neutralized. Completely. In 60 hours. By a human military force none of you knew existed. I will not explain the technology. I will not share designs. I will show enough for you to understand one thing. I looked directly into the camera. The fleet is not the message. It is proof that the message is credible. I could feel my pulse in my palms. For 3 centuries, humanity has maintained a hidden network around the stars of this galaxy. Your stars. Your home systems. Your colonies. Your military worlds. Your trade centers. Your sacred planets. The network was placed by human survey missions over 200 years. It cannot be detected by your current technology. I spoke slowly now. Each device is capable of disrupting the fusion process of the star it orbits. It will not create an explosion. It will not be quick. The star will fade. Within years, every world that depends on it will become unlivable. No room in the galaxy was silent enough for what came next. The network is called the Veil. It is connected to an automatic dead man's switch. If human civilization is destroyed, the Veil activates. Every device. Every star. Every system. The galaxy goes dark. I imagine 300 billion beings hearing that. I imagine fear moving faster than light. I want this understood clearly. This is not a bluff. This is not a bargaining position. This is not a threat made in panic. The Veil has been operational for more than 100 years. I swallowed once. We are not conquerors. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule your governments, change your beliefs, control your children, or command your futures. My voice stayed calm. We are going home. We are going to bury our dead. We are going to rebuild our cities. We are going to grieve. And the Veil will remain exactly where it is. I leaned closer. This is not a declaration of war. It is a declaration of consequence. The red light did not blink. You are free to live. Trade. Explore. Sing. Build. Worship. Argue. Grow. Love your children under your own skies. Humanity will not stop you. If the Concord still wants us, we will return to our seat and remain the partner we have always been. Then came the sentence history would never forget. But if any species, any empire, any alliance, any captain, any single warship fires on a human world again, the Veil activates. Not against the attacker. Against everyone. I could almost hear the galaxy stop breathing. Every star. Every system. Everything ends. I stood in that bare room and felt the final door close. We spent 300 years believing the galaxy could choose courage over convenience. When the day came, you chose silence. So now we give you silence in return. A long peace, held by the knowledge that humanity cannot be erased without taking the galaxy with it. My throat hurt. I did not want to make this speech. I became a diplomat because I believed intelligent life could be better than fear. I still want to believe that. But 14 million of my people are dead because we trusted promises more than certainty. I thought of Grace's drawing. Never mistake our kindness for helplessness again. Never mistake our patience for permission. Never mistake our mercy for weakness. I held the camera's gaze. This is humanity's final message to the galaxy. Understand it. Remember it. There will not be another. The red light went off. The room became quiet. Not peaceful. Empty. I stood there for a long time. My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my legs, but the shaking did not stop. It has never fully stopped. Even now, some mornings, I wake up and my hands remember what my voice did. Lucy opened the door. She did not praise me. She did not look afraid. She looked grieving. That was worse, and kinder. It is playing everywhere, she said. Every world. Every station. Every ship. I nodded. Then it is done. I walked through the corridors of the Nightfall. Officers stopped as I passed. Some looked at me with respect. Some with pity. Some with something too complicated to name. I went to the observation deck and placed my forehead against the cold glass. The stars looked the same. That felt wrong. Somewhere among them, billions of beings were watching my face appear above their cities. On Varadi hive towers. In Krell stone halls. In Pelori sky nests. In Drathani military shelters. In markets, ships, temples, schools, and private rooms. The galaxy was learning that humanity had not been weak. Humanity had been restrained. There is a difference so large that entire civilizations can fall into it. The Varadi ambassador watched the message alone in her quarters. Later, I learned she sat in silence for 2 hours before contacting her government. The Krell Military Council met for 4 days without pause. The Pelori did not speak for a full cycle. Instead, they sang. A low morning harmony spread across every Pelori settlement, a sound their people used only when history had done something terrible. The Drathani home worlds received the message too. They saw their great fleet folded into useless metal. They saw human ships rescue Drathani survivors. They saw prisoners treated by human doctors while Earth still burned below. That mercy hurt them more than cruelty would have. Cruelty would have confirmed their beliefs. Mercy broke them. When surviving Drathani officers were returned under humanitarian terms, they carried recordings. They told their people what had happened. The supremacy had promised them glory. Instead, it had dragged them to the edge of extinction and then been spared by the very species it tried to destroy. 4 months later, the Drathani War Council collapsed. Their own people removed it. A civilian provisional government rose from the wreckage and requested observer status in the Concord. The request passed unanimously. Nobody wanted to be the species that refused peace while humanity watched. The Concord survived, but it was never the same. Article 7 was rewritten. Mutual defense became automatic. No more review periods. No more emergency committees. No more elegant delays while civilians died. If one member world was attacked, the others moved at once. Fear accomplished what honor had failed to do. I do not say that with pride. I only say it because it is true. 6 months after the message, the Tessican and Dalvari nearly entered a border conflict over a disputed mining moon. In the old days, both sides would have postured for weeks. Fleets would have moved. Speeches would have been made. Someone might have fired a warning shot, and warning shots have a long history of becoming wars. This time, both sides settled the issue in 48 hours. No shots. No deaths. No speeches worth remembering. They called the new era the Long Quiet. A whole galaxy holding its breath. For the first time in recorded Concord history, there were no active wars. No invasions. No border raids. No privateer fleets. No liberation fronts turning into imperial armies. No empire rising on the bones of a smaller people. Peace spread from system to system. Not warm peace. Not trusting peace. Quiet peace. Peace with eyes open. A year later, I retired. I could no longer stand in council chambers and speak about trade as if the universe had not changed. I could no longer look at ambassadors who had abandoned us and pretend procedure had been anything but cowardice with polished manners. So I left. I found a small cottage on the southern coast of what used to be the French Riviera. The coastline had been reshaped by orbital bombardment. The sea had moved inland. My cottage stood where a vineyard had been before the war. The vines were gone. Reconstruction crews had planted salt grass to hold the soil in place. Some mornings, I walked along the new shore and found pieces of the old world in the sand. A fragment of road. A broken irrigation pipe. A kitchen tile from a house that no longer existed. I kept the tile on my desk. I began writing because silence was becoming too heavy. At first, I meant to write a record. A clear timeline. A factual account for historians. But memory does not move in straight lines. It circles. It returns. It brings you back to things you were not ready to see. I wrote about my childhood. The first time I saw Earth from orbit. The day I decided to become a diplomat. My first posting on the Tessican home world, where the buildings looked like glass trees and the people taught me that welcome could be a form of art. I wrote about the Concord before I knew what fear had been hiding beneath it. And I wrote about grace. Every week, I visited the memorial fields outside New Geneva. The memorial was built on a high plateau above the lake. It was not a wall. It was not a statue. It was black stone laid flat against the earth, stretching so far that the names became part of the landscape. 14,200,000 names. Small letters. You had to kneel to read them. Walking from one end to the other took 2 days. I know because I did it 3 times. By the end, my eyes burned, my knees ached, and the names blurred together until strangers felt like family. Grace Holloway was in section 14. Row 7. Stone 22,947. Her stone gave her name. Her dates. The word Osaka. It did not say she loved birds. It did not say she wanted to meet every alien species in the Concord. It did not say she once asked me if stars got lonely. Stone has no room for the things that matter. I brought flowers when gardens recovered enough to grow them. When there were no flowers, I brought myself. I stood beside her name and told her about my week. About the sea. About the book I was reading. About the first birds returning to the coast. I told her the galaxy was quiet now. I did not tell her why. I could not explain to a 12-year-old girl, even one who could no longer hear me, that the peace she would have loved was built on fear of what humanity might do. She believed in the best of us. I wanted to let her keep that belief. If this story is living in your mind now, press like, subscribe for the next chapter of human courage among the stars, and share it with a friend who enjoys science fiction with real emotional weight. Admiral Simon Drake visited me 8 months after I retired. He arrived without ceremony in a civilian ground car. He wore plain clothes, but they looked strange on him. Some people carry uniform even when they take it off. Drake was one of them. We sat on my porch, drank coffee, and watched waves break against a shore that had not existed before the war. The armada is being reduced, he said. 1,200 ships instead of 2,000. Is that wise? The veil is the real deterrent, he said. Always was. The armada was for the first response. The veil is what keeps everyone careful. Careful, I repeated. He looked at me. Alive, Nathan. I watched the water. Do you sleep well, Simon? He did not answer. That was answer enough. We sat in silence for a while. There are some things only silence can hold. Victory and grief are not opposites. Sometimes they sit in the same chair and wear the same face. Before he left, Drake said, "We built a galaxy where children are not bombed from orbit anymore." I looked toward the coast. At what price? The price already existed, he said. We just made everyone see it. I thought about that for a long time after his car disappeared down the road. Was he right? Maybe. Maybe every piece has a price. Maybe the only difference is whether people admit who is paying it. My memoir grew longer. It stopped being only a record of events and became a confession. I kept asking the same questions in different ways. Were we always this? Was our kindness real if the veil was already in place? Did the schools count if survey ships were leaving hidden satellites behind? Did our mercy toward Drathani prisoners mean less because we had threatened every star? Could a species be loving and terrifying at the same time? I wanted the answer to be yes. Most days, I almost believed it. Then the Varadi shuttle arrived. It came late one morning, descending toward the small landing pad behind my cottage. Its wings were sharp and elegant, the kind of design the Varadi considered simple and everyone else considered impossible to maintain. It settled with perfect grace. The Varadi who stepped out was young. Her exoskeleton was bright emerald, not yet darkened by age. Her compound eyes moved over the cottage, the shore, the sky, and me all at once. She wore a translator collar. Her upper limbs were held tight against her body, a sign of nervousness. "Ambassador Cole," she said. "Former ambassador." She bowed slightly. "My name is Selith Vaughn. I am a junior attaché with the Varadi mission to Earth. I carry a formal message from the Assembly. I also have a personal question, if you allow it." I studied her. The formal message was not why she had come. "Come inside," I said. "I will make tea." My kitchen was small. One window did not close properly, so the room always smelled faintly of salt. I made English breakfast tea, the same blend I had drunk for 30 years. Selith could not drink it. Her species did not process liquid that way. Still, she wrapped her limbs around the cup and held the warmth. "Your formal message first," I said. She recited it carefully. The Varadi Assembly expressed regret. They acknowledged the suffering caused by delayed action. They valued friendship with humanity. They promised future cooperation. It was a polished diplomatic apology, which meant it apologized for pain without fully admitting the choice that caused it. I knew the style. I had written things like it. "Thank you," I said. "Please carry my appreciation back to the assembly." Selith placed the cup down. Her nervousness vanished. Now she was very still. "Ambassador Cole," she said, "would you really have done it?" I already knew what she meant. She continued anyway. If the Drathani had succeeded. If humanity had been destroyed. Would the veil have activated? Would you truly have killed every star? There it was. The question beneath every debate in every government chamber since my message. Was humanity bluffing? Would the quiet species really end everything rather than die alone? I looked at Selith Vaughn. A young diplomat from a species that had refused us help. A child of the new era, brave enough to sit in my kitchen and ask the question her elders feared. The honest answer was complicated. The veil was automatic. If humanity had been wiped out, no person would have needed to decide. That was its purpose. A threat that depends on someone choosing to pull the trigger can be gambled against. The veil removed the gamble. But that was not what she asked. She was asking if we had built it with true intent. Had we meant it? I thought of Grace. I thought of the memorial fields. I thought of the assembly hall. I thought of the Drathani ships over Earth. I thought of Eleanor Webb discovering impossible power and humanity hiding it like a wound. I thought of Drake and his crews spending half their lives in darkness, waiting for a war they prayed would never come. Then I answered. "What do you think?" Selith stared at me. Morning light came through the crooked kitchen window and broke across her eyes, reflecting my face in 100 tiny pieces. She said nothing for a long time. But I saw the moment she understood. Humanity did not build the veil because we loved death. We built it because we loved life and did not trust the universe to spare it. We built schools because we wanted friends. We built hidden fleets because we remembered enemies. We healed plague victims because compassion is real. We placed satellites around stars because memory is real too. We are the species that buries its dead and still plants gardens beside the graves. We are the species that reaches out, gets bitten, bleeds, bandages the wound, and reaches out again, but never with both hands empty. Selith stood. She bowed in the deepest Varadi way, lowering her head to expose the vulnerable joint at the base of her skull. Among her people, it was the highest sign of trust. She held it for 5 full seconds. Then she left without another word. I watched her shuttle rise into the morning sky until it disappeared among the clouds. Then I returned to my desk and wrote the final pages of this account. They call it the long quiet. No wars. No invasions. No empires marching over weaker worlds. No cities burning under alien guns. Children are growing up now under a sky that does not know bombardment. Human children. Varadi children. Krell children. Pelori children. Even Drathani children, born after the fall of the supremacy, learning in schools where conquest is no longer praised as destiny. They will play in parks rebuilt from rubble. They will study in classrooms built where shelters once stood. They will look up at the stars and see beauty. Most of them will never know what waits in orbit around those stars. Maybe that is mercy. Maybe that is another lie. I do not know anymore. What I know is this. Grace's name is carved in black stone. Earth still turns. The galaxy is quiet. And every civilization under every sun now understands that humanity does not ask twice. We will be kind. We will trade. We will build. We will heal. We will share songs, stories, food, medicine, and light. But if the galaxy ever comes for our children again, then the stars themselves will learn what our grief can do. That is humanity's final message. Attack again, and everything ends. Before you leave this story behind, give it a like if it held your attention, subscribe for more HFY science fiction, and share it with someone who needs to hear why humanity's quiet can be the most dangerous sound in the galaxy.